now, we're going to bring your crew members to life. And you can do that with me while I'm doing it for myself. A few things before we start that are important. One is your intellect is going to want to tell you, hey, I already know I've got this judgmental part, or hey, I've looked through the cards and I've already chosen some. But in this particular exercise, we recommend just putting the product aside and putting any assumptions aside that you might have about what parts are loudest inside of you or which parts you want to work on. And in this exercise, we're going to try to just reverse engineer it based on where you are right now in this moment. And by the way, there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just an opportunity for you to experiment. It's called parts play. So we're going to play around with this a little bit. And one thing I like to do to start is to, and this is something you can do along with me while I'm doing it, is just check in with your body first, kind of ground yourself. So after I ground myself, I just check in with my body. And right now I'm feeling a little kind of a queasiness, a little bit of tightness in my throat. That's my body sensation. You can check yours right now. And it's just for right now in this moment, watching this video. What do you feel? Where do you feel it? And then I feel my emotions. I check in with my emotions, and I check in with my emotional self to see if I can identify the emotion that's connected to the physical sensation. So my emotion might be a little nervousness being on camera, a little anxiety, wondering whether I'm doing a good job or something. The feeling is anxiety, right? So it's just the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of discomfort, the feeling of maybe pressure. So you start with those, and yours might be something like this feeling of wishing that I would hurry up and get to the point. That could be an impatient one, or something. So check in with yourself. What are the feelings you have right now watching this part and in your body? And then the next step after that is what you might guess, which is to take then that physical sensation and the emotional quality that you feel and listen for a voice that says something from that point, breadcrumbing backwards. So I feel some tension in my chest. I feel some anxiety. And the sentence might be, am I doing a good job right now? Maybe you're talking too slowly. Maybe you're creating impatience in these people. And your voices might be, I wish you would hurry up. What's in the microwave? Is this class really worth it? Are we really going to get to the point that's good? So listen to those voices as you trace backwards. And as you build that way, you're developing from your present moment and what's happening inside of you versus top down, finding a card and working. Both work, but this exercise is about going from feelings into voices into your crew member. So give that a shot. You can even pause the video right now and try. Visualization step 1 is naming your crew member, which can be kind of fun. There's 3 different ways that you can name a crew member that I found to be very effective. One is a descriptive name, and that can be something like, let's say you have a bossy part and you call it Sergeant or General. That would be a descriptive name. The second one would be a personal name, or a name that has some relevance to your personal world or personal life. Like you might have a bossy crew member and that reminds you of Aunt Cindy, and you call it either Aunt Cindy or Cindy. And the last one is, you might use a playful name. Let's say the bossy part reminds you of your little sister, and your little sister's name growing up was Boo Boo Bear. So you'd name that part Boo Boo Bear, even though it was your bossy part. All right, visualization step 2 is taking it another step further in terms of the detail. So this is where you can start to close your eyes and imagine one of those characters. Let's say it's Boo Boo Bear. And you can think of Boo Boo Bear and say, was Boo Boo Bear young or old? How old is Boo Boo Bear? And you can close your eyes and think, what sort of behavior or emotions or gestures does Boo Boo Bear have? How does Boo Boo Bear dress? What's Boo Boo Bear's energy like? Is she kind of reserved and quiet? Is she loud, boisterous, and really animated? And maybe does Boo Boo Bear resemble a celebrity? Boo Boo Bear looks a little bit like Marilyn Monroe. So those are all things that help you take the character and develop it a little bit more, which is going to be very important as you move to the next step. Visualization step 3 is really taking and visualizing these characters for real. And this is where it can get very, very emotional. One of the ways that you can bring it to life, the character to life, is through just drawing. You might sketch. I'm going to switch from Boo Boo Bear to little Omo, who is my inner child. So let's just say I'm going to bring little Omo to life. I've done all of this preparation. I've named him little Omo, which is very personal. I have thought of exactly what his mannerisms are and his personality, how he dresses, how old he is. And now I've got this whole description that I can have in my mind's eye, and I could sit down and draw it. So you'll see there's a picture all the way on the left of what should represent a drawing. You don't have to be great at drawing. It could be a stick figure. It could be something super, super basic. But what's important is that you sit down and spend time taking this invisible character that's been inside of you and actually putting it in front of you so that you can see it, almost face the character from from a place that you've never been able to see in your mind's eye into something you can actually see with your eyes. If you're not great at drawing, what's exciting is you can use things like ChatGPT to just use the description that you came up with and put it into the prompt. And that description, for example, could say something like, create an image for me, make it an illustration. It's going to be of a 7-year-old boy holding a stuffed clown. He's got dark hair and bright eyes. He's a little shy and a little playful, and he's hiding behind the clown. Let it generate an image for you. And that can be either in the illustration style that you see here or in the very photorealistic style. Either way, this experience of bringing these parts to life, in this case, little Omo is my inner child, but I've done, the darkest parts of me and the lightest parts of me in this way. And there's something about seeing the character rendered for you where it's always been a nebulous or cloudy part of your head and you're face to face with it that is a very cathartic experience. It can be very emotional. Whatever it is for you, let it happen. I can tell you this, which is something that I often told coaching clients for a long time, which is that these scariest parts of us, when we do the same exercise in visualizing them, for many of us, it can be at first a little bit overwhelming to consider doing, but it's much like a scary movie where, if you notice in scary movies, they often take the alien or monster or whatever and they put that character away from you in the dark or towards the end of the movie or surrounded by a bunch of other distraction, because if they just turned the light on and showed you that it was a green banana with 1,700 eyes and bat wings, it's a little bit less scary than it was when you didn't know what it was, because our brain hates not knowing what things are. So that is to say that when you sit down and you create characters, including the ones that might be unsavory for you, that exist inside of you, and you see these parts of yourself, these crew members, come to life and sometimes in a whole lot of photorealistic detail, being face to face with that character can bring up all sorts of emotions, from compassion, love, more understanding, and a lot less fear. It's different for everyone. And again, whatever it is for you, just go with it. Okay, another thing you can do if you want to visualize your crew member.
Now I'm gonna show you a real interview between me and my parts. My darkness has a name and is Han. Just want to let you know so you won't be surprised who is Han. Okay. I'll take some time to come back to my witness seat. And sometimes to recall the presence of my darkness. You know, for this part, it won't take me long to reconnect with this part because it used to be a very, very strong activated part. I still remember exactly the time is July 2021 was the strongest era of my darkness, and I can still feel the emotion, the tension in my chest, and that anxiety bowl in my belly when this part shows up. Okay, I will start the interview now. Thank you for coming to this talk today, Han. It's been a while since we talked one-on-one like this. We did it in Chiang Mai, and that was pretty dramatic, isn't it? So I just want to know, how are you now? And is there anything you want to tell me? Hey. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me an identity, a name. And I still remember vividly the day you talked to me for the first time. I looked horrible. And several times after that, you let me wash my body and dress me up differently and let me cry and be so angry and so angry at you. And I remember I humiliated you and put you down so hard. That's our past, right? Lately, ironically, I'm the darkness, but lately I feel a lot of positivity. Like when I shows up and I think about, we had suicidal thoughts before for years. But when that thought comes up in my mind, I just feel like, oh, it's an old friend visiting me. And you and I spent a lot of times playing with the thoughts of death and sees the beauty of the end of physical life and the eternity of the life of the soul and this universe. Wow, I feel like a philosopher now, but I think about myself differently. I no longer the disgusting woman trying to put you down or doubting about your ability in everything. I no longer wants to pull you into the darkness and be depressed. I just want to be friend with all of the crew members that we have, and I guess very much like the jealousy part, I guess my role now is to be here to remind you that there's always darkness in life, dark moments, dark thoughts, doubts, but you can outgrow that, and let me be myself right now as a reminder to you and the crew that we can overcome everything, and we can work together, and move through life with grace and balance of light and darkness working together. It's pretty beautiful, isn't it? You know, I never stop being surprised by how deep you are. Probably you are the deepest part that I have in my crew. You are also the only crew member that can make me, as the witness, cry so hard, and also the inner child cries really hard talking to you. But now, listening to you, knowing where you are in the crew, and especially how positive you are about yourself, with your new image that I gave you. I'm proud of you, and without you, I can never be here. I can never feel changed so much and grow so much. And I just want to express my gratitude to you on behalf of every other crew members. I'm proud of you, and thank you for coming to the interview today. Okay. I know that for most of you who watch this video, interviewing a crew member can be the very first time you actually talk out loud to a part. It's just like meeting somebody new and you don't have any relationship with that part, and it might sound very different from the interviews that I have with my members, because I had several conversations with most of them before. So seeing my crew member again is more like seeing an old friend. We have a history. We knew what we talked about the last time, and it can be so quick as you just saw. But I remember the first time I talked to my darkness, that was half an hour conversations, and at the witness, I didn't talk much. For half an hour, my darkness was just venting, expressing, and yeah, that was the last time. I strongly encourage you to, when you interview a crew member, just choose one that you feel like is the loudest voice inside of you and just let it vent. I think that's the best way to create a relationship with your crew member.
Okay, what a real crew meeting looks and sounds like. So for me personally, now I'm sharing my own personal approach to this, which is I go on morning walks when I do mine. I don't obviously sit in front of a camera with a microphone, but the rest of this is going to be very real. This is exactly the way that I do it. And these are real crew members that I have, real parts of me that I have. And I mentioned some of them earlier. So the first thing that I do is I get in the witness chair. And I've done that enough to where I can feel myself get into that place pretty quickly. And while I'm walking, I usually imagine Harry, my intellect, B, who is my spiritual self, like the letter B. I imagine little Omo, and I imagine Lewis, my anxious self. And I imagine them at the table. And as we talked about earlier, I first start with a moment of thanking them for being there. So I acknowledge each one of them separately. And if I have prepared something to talk about beforehand, like I know I want to talk about this video that I have to make, or maybe I know I want to talk about the trip that I have to make to Saigon later, or some other subject, then I might say to all of them, hey, after I've thanked them, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Or if I just want to let there be a topic emerge, then I can just not do that. Either way, after I'm done thanking them, I usually take a moment of silence. And I just simply start by saying, who wants to go first? That's my way of starting it. Who wants to go first? And I think for a second, I feel for a second across that table to see which crew member seems to be activated the most to that question. Who wants to go first? And maybe in this case, it's little Omo. And little Omo says something like, I'll go first. You always say that you're going to play with me, and then you don't play with me, and then I get really sad. And I'll say, oh, so you feel sad? And he'll say, yeah, I feel sad because you always make that promise to me that you're going to do something with me, that we're going to go outside, or we're going to play, or we're going to do something besides work, but you're always working. And I'll say, oh, well, what do you think about that? I don't like it. Well, what would you prefer that happens? What would make you feel good? What do you need today, little Omo? And little Omo might say, I just want to watch a movie. I want to eat popcorn and watch a movie. Or maybe we can go someplace, like we could go to the park. And I say, okay, thank you for sharing that. Now, who else wants to go? Are you done, little Omo? And I'll let little Omo talk as much as he wants to about either the subject or whatever's on his mind. And when it's time, I'll say, who else wants to go? Who wants to go next? And I can feel that my anxious self wants to go next. And he may something, that's Lewis. He might say something like, I am so tired of all of you guys constantly talking about your feelings and talking about all the stuff that, you want to go to the park, little Omo, and B wants everyone to just be relaxed. And I'm the one that's working all the time, and it's so stressful. Oh my God, I'm the only person that's carrying all of this work. You guys get to sit up in your ivory tower just talking about your feelings, and the only person holding the bag is me. And it's exhausting. When are you guys, how come I'm the person that has to hold all of this? Why don't you guys take some of it? And if it gets very emotional like that, I especially take a little bit of a longer pause to make sure that I go completely back to the witness chair again. And then I can ask Lewis questions like, wow, it sounds like you're very upset. I hear that you are carrying a lot. And what is it that you would, what is it you need? I asked little Omo what he needed. What is it that you need, Lewis? And Lewis is going to give me an answer. It could be something very specific to those topics. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to listen to all of those answers. And as I go through this, and I might let my spiritual self go, I might let Harry go in this particular format. And at the end of it, there may be some things that come out if they're talking to out loud one at a time, or maybe they talk to each other, where I want to take some notes. I want to take some notes and let people know what decisions that we're making here. It might be to watch a movie. It might be to take on a little bit less, to help Lewis with his anxiety. And I'll take those notes down at the end of my crew meeting.